We are in Japan on the USS Ronald Reagan. I want to ask about something, first of all, that's making headlines in the United States and here right now, and that is that last week the U.S. military and the administration announced that another ship, the USS Carl Vinson, was heading toward the Korean Peninsula. And the White House said it was a powerful deterrent vis-a-vis North Korea. And now we learn that it wasn't. In fact, it was going the other direction. So were these misleading comments deliberate?
Oh, I think not. Look, we've got an extraordinary commitment of U.S. forces in this region. And the Carl Vinson and that battle group are being deployed to the Sea of Japan and will likely arrive here in the coming weeks. But the presence of U.S. forces, as I saw firsthand in South Korea, more than 30,000 personnel. Here in Japan, more than 50,000 personnel. Being aboard the USS Ronald Reagan and seeing these extraordinary soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines gives me great confidence that the United States presence in the Asian Pacific is strong, and under President Trump's leadership, it'll be stronger still.
Let's talk about North Korea and what you've been saying while here in the region, that the strategy of the U.S. will be to reach out to allies in the region, and that the best path to dialogue, you're saying, is through a family of nations. I got to tell you, that sounds a whole lot like the six-party talks back in the Bush administration that failed. How is your policy different?
I think that the president has made it very clear that after more than 2 decades of failed dialogue, and even what was called strategic patience, that the patience of the United States and our allies in this region has really run out, and that we are now going to begin to take such measures, diplomatically and economically, to isolate the regime in Pyongyang. And the encouraging news, Dana, for anyone looking on, is that because of President Trump's leadership, now, we're not only seeing our allies in South Korea and Japan and in the wider world standing with us, but China has taken unprecedented steps now to begin to economically isolate North Korea. And given the fact that China represents more than 80% of the exports from North Korea, is enormously important to their economic marketplace, we believe this is an important step forward.
So I just want to try to drill down on the diplomatic side of this a little bit more. Will the U.S. actually sit down in any way, shape, or form for diplomatic negotiations with the North Koreans?
You know, whether you go back to the agreed framework of the 1990s or the six-party
Well, not that,
talks.
just looking forward, whatever version it would be, will there be any negotiating, whether it's direct? I mean, you can answer that. Could you see a direct negotiation with North Korea and the U.S.?
I think not at this time. The policy that President Trump has articulated is to marshal the support of our allies in the region, here in Japan, in South Korea, nations around the world, and China, who have taken the position now for decades of a nuclear-free Korean peninsula.
Bilateral talks, that's not going to happen. Understandable. Is there a move or a thought that, as part of those diplomatic steps you're talking about, to get the nations like South Korea, like Japan, maybe even China, back to the table with North Korea and the U.S.? Is that something you think is doable and would make much of a difference?
I think the president's vision for this is very straightforward, and that is that we are going to make it clear to the regime in Pyongyang that the days of broken promises, the days of running out the clock on agreements with the wider world are over. That when you look at two nuclear tests in the last year alone, you look at an unprecedented number of ballistic missile launches, there's no question that North Korea represents the most dangerous and most immediate threat in the Asian Pacific. And President Trump is determined to confront that threat by marshaling unprecedented cooperation of our allies in the region and China and the world.
You've got your rhetorical strategy down, and so does the president. But is it a rhetorical strategy in search of an actually practical diplomatic approach?
I think it's eminently practical. I think the president's direct engagement with President Xi of China and the fact that now you've seen China turning back coal shipments from North Korea, making changes in the ability of people to travel by air from Pyongyang into China, and other measures that they may well take in the future demonstrates the kind of hands-on diplomacy that President Trump has brought to this. And that's what it will take.
Did the missile test that the North Koreans launched while you were on your plane heading to the region fail because the U.S. used any electronic or cyber technology to sabotage it?
I really can't comment on the electronic or technical capabilities of our military, but we certainly recognize that was a failed missile test. It failed almost immediately, just like another recent test.
But the U.S. didn't have anything to do with it?
But, well, I can't comment either way, as you know, Dana. What I can say is that, failed or not, it was one more provocation by a regime that continues to flout the views of the international community. And it's got to come to an end.